My name's Stephen Downey, and you are very welcome to episode 42 of the Mindful Living Guide. This week I have a great guest on. He is the creator of Sustainable Life Coach, and I love the power community. George contacted me recently. We kind of found each other on Instagram, and we had a media connection, and we had a great chat there just about 3 weeks ago. And we said, right, let's do this again and record it for the podcast, because I love his outlook on life. I love how he helps people in what he calls a sustainable way. I really feel that everybody will get something from this podcast and the type of questions that George asks to get you to your reason why. So sit back and enjoy this week's episode of the Mindful Living Guide. So you're so welcome to this episode of the Mindful Living Guide. I'm here with George Wilse, and he is an amazing coach that we got in contact recently just through the power of social media and building community and just having a chat. And we had a great conversation. And at the end of it, I said, listen, I have to get you on the show. We have to just share some of these thoughts with the listeners. And George, you're so welcome. Thank you for coming on the Mindful Living Guide.
Oh, thanks so much, Stephen. Really appreciate it. Yeah, love the way we got into contact. Like in this crazy world we live in, the fact that social media can play such a wicked role and get people from different parts of the world, get them together is just absolutely awesome. So thanks so much. Really appreciate you having me.
Let's just dive into when we were chatting. You've been on a great journey over the last few years, from just building up just your own knowledge of the coaching industry, and it started very early on, just by accident, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, dude. So I'd probably say my journey started about, I'm gonna go ahead and say 8 years ago. And I'm 30, so I think in the grand scheme of things, I'm pretty young. So I definitely on a journey of learning myself, and I hope that never changes. But I started like most people. I was kind of in a place of work, and I've always had an affinity with human beings and being able to, I guess, connect with them. And I was privileged to work with a fantastic company. You may have heard of them. They make great mobile devices and computers and all sorts, but we'll leave the name out just for the sake of whatever we need to be careful of. Just instantly had an affinity with culture and the fact that there are just so many wonderful human beings from all different walks of life coming in and trying to do the best, I guess, work of their lives, right? And whatever role I could play in that started to come out in great conversations, started to happen really in a really natural way. And then I guess if we fast forward a little bit, you had COVID come in, and I had a massive choice to make, like most of us. It's like, do we go down the what is this? Do we hunker down, or do we get to work? And I instantly had an opportunity to really get to work, and I managed to manage teams remotely through the power of coaching. And my God, that really, I guess that was the making of me as a leader and the making of me as a transformational coach. And then from then on in, I took another job. I took a massive leap, and we can, I guess, talk a little bit about fears and how we navigate changes when fears are so present in our mind. I definitely went through that, took a massive leap, and I had a massive life change at the end of it. I was left with a really big decision to make after a year of working with another company, and that was the moment. I remember coming out of a exit interview, shall we say, and going, within 2 hours, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Take a massive leap, invest heavily into my coaching, reach out to my network and go, okay, I'm going to be a full-time coach on my own. Here we go. Let's see what I can do in the world. And here we are.
there's something like you mentioned there along the journey as well, that it wasn't all like, it wasn't an easy decision to make. There was fear that came up in it and
Absolutely.
resistance. Do you want to talk about some of those fears that came up,
Yeah.
and like stuff like there's so many people out there, and I'm fascinated with this, that they want to do certain things in their life, but this fear stops them. It didn't stop
Yeah.
you, George. Why not?
No, I mean, I'll definitely say that there are definitely decisions in life that fear has taken a hold and won. This is something that I'm proud to say it hasn't. So totally identify with that fear, and it kind of like stopping us in our place, right? Or it's like really thick mud trying to pull our feet up out of it. And um, it's often the fear of jumping. So we usually have a decision, or we have a opportunity that comes up, and we're standing on this cliff face looking down at this precipice of darkness. We're often, if we're thinking about jumping, we're often fearful that if we jump, we'll fall. And the beautiful part about it is the only time you're ever going to be stuck, or if you adhere to the fear, you're just going to be stood still. The minute you actually decide to take a foot off of that cliff, you don't fall. You just kind of glide. You know, you're not really flying. You're not really falling. Everyone's scared about hitting their face on this hard floor. There's no hard floor, which is so wonderful. And I guess my goal in life is to help people navigate any kind of changes, because changing in itself is a split second. It's the not changing that takes such a very long time, and it's because of that fear, right? So I work with my clients, whether it's job change, whether it's leaping for a new opportunity, or whether it's becoming a new parent, right? Like really, it could be a number of things that fear does play with us, and it's a wonderful way of being able to help navigate those thoughts and feelings.
And it's amazing that the fear of, sometimes it's, we're only looking at the whole journey, the whole destination, like the analogy people use, the whole staircase. And sometimes it's just about just looking at that little first step and that little first move that we
Absolutely.
can take towards there. And you've worked with, I remember when we were talking about the seniors, helping seniors as well.
Oh yeah.
There was some great work that you did within there in your own community as well. Do you want to talk a bit about
Oh
that?
man, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, absolutely. So that's I'm really proud of that actually. It's I won't take I won't take much credit for it. It's my parents run an awesome franchise called Seniors Helping Seniors. Based here in the UK, and the whole idea here is it's caring with a heart. So they're kind of looking at the care industry with a real sense of, okay, how do we connect one-on-one with every single interaction that we have. So they work with people who are, let's say, nearing retirement. They're able-bodied, able-minded, but they're not necessarily, in the they're not in their 30s. I think, to be honest, it's majority in their 50s, 60s. So going into retirement. And want to be able to give back and help their communities. And these carers, we kind of pair them up with people who are perhaps less abled, and the whole thing for us is that connection. Does Mary get on with Joe? And if they don't get on, well, then let's not, even though Joe's totally capable of helping out, Joe might not be the right fit. And that's what it's all about, right? So I think it's fair to say every element of our life as a family and as individuals is all about putting people first, and just making sure people have a nicer life.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
And I'd say a lot of the skills that you gain from coaching is probably filtered into that as well, into trying to make
Yeah,
those
absolutely. I
connections.
mean,
And
yeah, totally.
yeah. I was going to say that the fact you're acknowledging though as well, that sometimes the connections that we make mightn't work straight away, and we have to kind of change them as well. That's that like you were saying there about if Mary didn't get on, that we have to work out with what like look at like change and moving forward, and just what will go work.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's often just around never assuming, never expecting, and taking everything for, I think the first thing to do is take everything for face value, right? And then not be afraid to explore it through conversation, and just be able to go, hey, look, okay, so why? Let's not be scared of asking that question, because a lot of people in any walk of life, and you'll know this, like if we don't ask why, we never know. So let's not be scared of asking that question. Let's go that step beyond, really get to the heart of the issue, and then we can work from there. Because ultimately our internal why is always about helping others. And if that's true, and if we're humble about it, and we're able to connect in that way, then what have we got to lose, right? It's okay. I have no harm in someone saying, I'd rather someone give me the feedback and say, look, we are, in fact, let me rephrase this. Throughout my coaching with my clients, right? Like when someone says to me, okay, I've got this, I want this to happen, right? This is my mission. This is my goal. I go, great. What I specialize in is deep transformational coaching, and you are going to experience a bit of vulnerability here. And the way we get there is we're going to turn the dial up. I'm a musician at heart. I've had wonderful sides of my life where it comes to music, and I use the notion of a volume dial. Like we'll turn it up to 11, right? And that's just me going a little bit deeper, and it may feel a little bit uncomfortable, but no, in me doing that, that's going to help us get to a space where we're going to be really comfortable. And at the end of this, you're probably going to feel like, Jesus, did I really go that extra step? Did I, did this person really, did we really have that connection? And the answer is absolutely yes. And it's okay to feel that way. The reason we're getting to that position, and the reason we're having this conversation, is by only being that vulnerable, we're going to be able to make positive and effective change in your life, right? Otherwise, it'll be a great conversation and we'll leave it at that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But it takes two people to be ready for that. So when we come back to Mary and Joe, it's like, we're here to help. We're here to make some incredible things happen. And we just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing by you, by making sure we get the right human being in front of us. We won't assume that just because we have a good mission that we're going to have the right person straight away. And I think that has some real humility there. So, and I'm super proud of my parents for championing that.
It's an amazing cause. It's actually brilliant. It's something you're talking about there as well, is about there's so many people out there that don't realize why they really feel they want to do something, and it's that reason why I've mentioned loads of times on the podcast about, even if you're setting a goal, it's so important to use the analogy of just peeling back the onion and getting to that core reason why. And sorry for the pun, but why do you think people aren't aware of why they want to do things?
I'm going to flip that on its head. I think people, I think the vast majority of us have a great why, a great internal core of why. Yeah. It's the other distractions that come into us all the time that make us think, oh, actually, I want to be doing that as well. And that's great. It's wonderful. Yeah. But in doing so, we may be detracting from our internal why, and it may be changing it ever so slightly. And it's our job, I guess. And you'll know this from your workshops and just connecting with people the way you do, is that it's okay if the why changes. It's okay if our values change over time. It's just making sure that we are able to account for the why and look at the journey back, because otherwise that just leads to a bit of confusion, right? Like there is no there's never any real worry about having clarity. Like a lot of people really want clarity for the road ahead, and I love your analogy of the staircase, just one step at a time. A lot of people get quite anxious about, actually, I don't really have a clear way forward, and that's all right. The only clarity you really need is, let's say if we look backwards, that's clear. So you had a why then, and now it's changed a little bit. Great. And maybe if we look at today and we're clear about our why today, that's good enough. Let's then look at our mission with our why today and be open to change, be open to all these other wonderful things, but let's keep bringing it back. Let's keep ourselves accountable to that change.
And it goes back to what you keep saying about that letting some vulnerability in. That sometimes, and when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we can open our eyes up to that change and open our eyes up to what is possible as well.
Absolutely. a lot of people surprise us that with their kind of internal monologue of, oh, I shouldn't do that, or I shouldn't be thinking this way. Try thinking that way. And if you shouldn't, just ask yourself, why shouldn't I? And that can go one of two ways, right? And that's where I think the power of coaching, and I think the power of just having a great conversation with someone can really help align you to that. Like, okay, I thought the other day, is it okay that I'm thinking about applying for this extra course? And sure, what would it give you? Like, and as long as the why is quite crucial, the why is being answered, to some of your core values. Will it make me a better coach? Then yeah, great, go for it. If it's going to distract you from something else, fine. Like, be okay with that, but make sure you kind of let it follow in line with with the road you're setting out.
Absolutely. And it's like there's so many elements there that are important to just to be open, and just to open up those conversations as well. And if there was someone out there that has those kind of questions, that has never looked at coaching or never looked at this type of conversation, and like it's like, I think it was important, and actually I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second, but one thing I was going to say, sorry, was that it's very important in the questions that you ask and the type of questions that you ask these people, that just to try and open them up as well. Do you want to talk about just the type of question that you would like, if someone was coming to you for the first time, how the type of questions you might ask to kind of to open up their mind to a greater kind of good than they
Yeah,
can see?
totally. Yeah, that's a wonderful question. I think the best one, I mean, we know the power of open questions, right?
Yeah.
I really love exploring the possibility of what if. And I know that sounds pretty basic, but I can see from the smile on your face, like it instantly gets the dreamers to become, it turns dreams into some practical things. So what if that were to happen? And it works the other way. It works with that. We were talking a little bit about failure earlier. Like, okay, I'm worried I'm going to turn up to the next meeting. Like I do something called Sunday sessions, right? Where I know from waking up in the morning, all the way to the evening on a Sunday, I'm like, right, it's Monday tomorrow. Christ, I've got that meeting. I've got this person to meet, or etc. etc. I'm not going to give your listeners anxiety just by going through that. And my why behind that Sunday session is to explore. Okay, well, let's hear those, because it's going to be one of like 5 main anxieties for the next day. And the power of what if comes in there too. Okay, what if? What happens if the meeting goes badly? Okay, so what are we actually worried about? I'm worried that my boss will think I've done a bad job. Okay, let's explore what if they do. Let's really go down that road, and until we get to the very point where it's like, okay, I'm worried they're going to think I'm stupid. Okay, and the question is, is that something you believe? Well, no. Okay, great. So let's go back up that chain, same questions, with that mindset of, well, I know I'm not stupid. Great. I know I'm good at my job. Great. Actually, if the meeting goes badly, is it a reflection on my ability to do my job? No, not at all. It's a reflection on you care so much. That's why you're anxious in this moment, because you actually care about your role. And having these conversations allows people to, I guess it lays that initial, like if we weren't having these conversations, burnout is going to be much quicker. And I'm very fortunate, again, going right back to that like origin story, like the culture in my previous workplace, like you'd have these conversations, it would be open. And I feel like most places really should be there. So, and that's, you just find that for whatever reason, people aren't having those conversations. And that's the work I'm super proud of, is to be able to talk to people either one-on-one or in groups, and say, let's hear those fears, let's hear those anxieties, and let's actually look at them, because we're actually so fixated on the fact that things might go wrong. Let's say if they do.
And it just turns into autopilot each week, just runs into the next week, and we're not taking that time on a Sunday just to pause and just see. And just in terms of actually yourself, your own journey now, is that you're moving away from London, and you're now like you're walking the talk, as they say, and you're taking a big leap of faith over the next while. Do you want to tell people, the listeners, about
Yeah,
what's next?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's conquer a fear, dude. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason I've been, I guess, almost anxious to talk about it myself is because I'm in the doing phase, right? I've
Yeah.
got an incredible partner who I'm doing this with. And so the long and short of it is that we are realizing both of our dreams. We're moving to a beautiful sunny island of Mallorca. We're setting up a wellness retreat, and that'll be where I will be supporting her and also supporting my coaching business. And I mean, to go ahead and say we're actually doing it, we're going to up and move all of our friends, all of our family are in different, they're either in England or in different parts of the world, and we're doing this purely because this is our dream. We know we can positively affect those around us. We want to build a community of wellness and positivity, and that's what we're doing. And we are in the final stages of getting that over the line and getting it done. And so that's where the anxiety comes in, because every day is trust me, like every single day is a, what if it goes wrong? What if this doesn't happen? You go, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's cool, because our why is so strong. It'll be okay. We'll deal with it. It probably will go terribly wrong. We don't have any expectations, and I think that's super important. And I can talk a little bit later about like mastering those expectations, or rather not having any. Yeah,
No, tell me about that, actually, because that's an interesting concept. Because there's kind of a dichotomy here that in some ways it's good to kind of, like, we talk about defining success, defining where your end goal is, and but in some ways, and sometimes, like this example, that we have to be comfortable with not knowing what the final destination will be, but it goes back to what you said about the why.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole idea around everything you've just said is I think about having humility, right? And the reason I'm so happy to be on this podcast is about living a mindful life, right? Like, and for me, living a mindful life, you're kind of often ask yourself, like, what is that, and am I actually doing that?
Yeah.
And to live a mindful life for me is to have a lot of humility involved in it, right? In our thought process. And we know that we have no idea what anyone is truly going through, and so we've got to be considerate and mindful of everyone around us and have intention for our actions. But more than anything, I feel the biggest tip, for, I guess, to answer that question of like what is that, is be mindful of our expectations. The mantra that I live by, and I'll thank my dad for this, is expectations ruin relationships. And if we're going to break that down, it'd be to consider, when you walk out of your door today, or if you're on your walk, when you step back into the office, if you go to that next meeting, remove any expectation you have on how people around you will act, what they'll say, how they'll react, and purely live in that moment. Watch things unfurl as they happen and accept them. If you're standing on stage, you're delivering a workshop, it's going wrong, just assume it's all, like, everyone in the room. This is probably a terrible bit of advice, but there is no, the worst thing that can happen is you continue and at least one person is engaged with what you're saying. And I love what you said at the beginning when we started our call today, is we're here for that one person to change their mind, or to help them along their journey for the day. And if we remove any expectations of ourselves and themselves, there is only room for what's happening in this moment. And I think for me, that's the kind of mindfulness and mindful life that where I come from, and it's truly life changing. It stops us having that tendency of living in our heads, see the world for what it is, for the day. And I'm all about sustainability, as in letting things happen for the long term. And that's really where you can see sustainable results. And you can see it time and time again.
Do you know what? I started asking, just by total chance, I started asking that question: what does mindful living mean to you? in the first ever episode. And it has become a staple of every single episode. And you have so articulately shown why I ask this. It's because it means so many different things to so many different people. And you've described it in a way that no other guest has described it before. And I love it. I absolutely love it, because there's so many times where we are living in a life where we prescribe exactly the way we expect things to happen. And sometimes we have to let go of all those expectations. And like you said, just let go of what can happen and just look at the what if, like what's the worst can happen. And yeah, it's great to just look at, for me, kind of, for this podcast, it's kind of just what one person can we help today. And I'm very grateful that many times there has been many people that it's made a change to, but there's other people that may go out and they try and set up a podcast or they set up a business and they look into the mass success and to kind of impact on thousands of people at once. But that all starts with one person, and it's amazing how that will just continue and continue and continue.
Yeah, it truly is. Love that.
And like it's, we're going to touch on mindfulness there. Would meditation or mindfulness be a big part of your journey, or at the moment, or?
I would definitely say that it plays a role. I don't think it's so mindfulness in the traditional sense of these, let's say, meditation and practices. I'm going to hold my hand up. Since September, I've had to really throw myself into the deep end in terms of starting this business and serving my clients wholeheartedly every single day. That I actually haven't been doing a lot of carving out time for meditation. I'm growing an ever bigger subscriber of sound baths. My partner is a great sound practitioner. I'm looking at her gong as we speak.
Wow.
Yeah. It's gorgeous. And I really find solace in that, because that kind of allows you, I mean, like all meditation, it takes away that initial conversation and throws you into calms those thoughts, right? Calms those anxieties that we all get.
And that's such an important thing for people listening to understand, that when I asked you about kind of mindfulness or meditation, and that is that you now have your own way. Yes, since September you've been extremely busy, but I can see that you've found a different way to kind of slow down the conversations in the head, to kind of relax through the work of sound and sound baths. And actually, if you are hearing the word sound bath for the first time today, I highly recommend you look it up. I am very grateful to be friends with an amazing sound bath practitioner here in Dublin, Roisin Graham, and I've experienced many sound baths with her, and it is fantastic. It's a beautiful way just to let go, and it just shows there's so many different ways of not just your traditional meditation of sitting down on your own with a guide or with music. There's so many different ways that we can bring mindfulness into our life and just embrace just a calmness into our life. It doesn't have to be prescribed. It doesn't have to be one way. And like we've said all through this conversation, you don't get it wrong, just by trying, just by getting there and trying. And one thing actually you spoke about a few seconds ago, about the name of your company, because it's the Sustainable Life Coach, and I know that sustainability means an awful lot to you as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's initially everyone kind of thinks, oh, you so it must be about like being like recycling, and we think about that green triangle. And while absolutely massive advocate for that, I mean, my whole, I guess, reason for being, my mission is to leave the world in a better place than I found it. So absolutely sustainability in that regard. But what it really means to me is to be able to serve people fully and completely, so they are able to have sustainable change throughout their life. And there's definitely a place for one-stop shops and all that stuff. Like absolutely not disregarding it. Everything has its place in life. That's just not my why, and that's not my mission. I'm here to if someone comes to me with, I I want to be a better partner, or I am looking to change jobs, or I've just been let go of a job. If I can be that shoulder, we can have those conversations, but I'm actually here to go a lot deeper. I'm here to transform your current situation into what you really want to see it as. And if you don't have that vision already, that's okay. Promise we'll get there. And it's because of that sustainability piece, because I'm such a believer in people having that core. They just have to get connected to it. And when they're off, when they get connected to it, they're off. And there's no coming back from that. And that is so beautiful to see. And that's I
Powerful.
really, it really is powerful. Love that word. And it is, yeah, and that is my whole reason. I'd feel like I've done a disservice if someone comes back and goes, you know what, I had a great conversation, I just don't really know where I'm going from here. Then I haven't served you at all.
The
Yeah.
we're coming to the end of our conversation, and there's a question I'd like to ask people as well,
Sure.
because we always have things in our mind we'd like to talk about. Is there anything that I haven't mentioned today that you'd love to talk about for our listeners?
Oh, what a lovely question. um I feel like no, I feel like you have said a lot. I feel like the one thing I'd like to impart from my part to your listeners is um the power of having this kind of bird's eye view on the world, because this ties in perfectly to mindful living and how we can sustainably do it. And I guess I'll use the example of for those of us who've been on a flight before. So I want you to picture kind of sitting in your seat, looking out of a window, and there's that moment you're looking down and watching what seems like the whole country landmass at work. They're commuting, they're shopping, they're living their lives blissfully, and like blissfully unaware that you're having this almost wider perspective, one that you don't get very often. I mean, we're not always in the air, right? And that's the bird's eye view that um, love for you to have in your minds. And that moment for me is super significant, because whatever you're seeing, whatever you're feeling and experiencing, there are 8 billion people living such diverse and incredible lives at the very same moment. And it's that kind of thought that can hurt the brain. It's like considering how many stars there are out there and all that stuff. And it's that kind of thought that really encapsulates mindful living for me. It's about being aware of all of this and creating space for what's happening to actually happen, and not to have any preconceived notions as best as one can. Like, that's the way I choose to serve my clients. I can serve them fully, wholeheartedly, without hesitation, because we're looking at the whole picture, right? Rather than just one preconceived notion, the expectation, etc., etc. And I think that's one thing I'd be remiss if I didn't say before we ended our call.
So, creating that space for a sustainable life.
Love it.
Listen, George, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the Mindful Living Guide and just share your outlook on life. And I really know that listeners will get an awful lot from this conversation. And I just want to wish you luck, from honestly from my heart, that for the move to Mallorca, it's going to be amazing. And I will definitely, if anything comes up over the next while you need to share, I will share them again with my listeners. And I really hope that you enjoy this journey, and wherever this journey takes you, have an absolutely amazing, amazing time.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Stephen. Honestly, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure. And invite to Mallorca extended your way instantaneously, my friend.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
really, really look forward to following your journey too. It's been a pleasure so far, truly.
George, thank you so much.
Thank you. You take care.
So there you have this week's episode of the Mindful Living Guide. And I think that was a great example of asking ourselves those questions to find out the why, find out the reason why we want to go on certain journeys, but also the reason why we're not. And that's what I love George's open and honest kind of account of the type of questions he asks and how he can bring people on those journeys. And it was summed up so beautifully at the end about creating a sustainable life. You know, it doesn't have to be really uncomfortable and difficult. We can create these sustainable lives for ourselves. So listen, thanks again for tuning into the Mindful Living Guide. It's been a journey and I'm absolutely loving it, and I'm loving the guests that I meet, and it's always filled my heart. And thank you so much for just taking the time to listen, just taking time out of your day, whether you're on a walk, whether you're in the car, or wherever you listen to the podcast. Thank you so much, and I'd really appreciate it if you enjoyed it. Just share it, what do we else say? Subscribe, and any way you can to get notified of the next episode. So listen, have a great week. Take care of yourself, and just keep living a mindful life, whatever that mindfulness means to you in your life. Take care, and thank you for joining me on the Mindful Living Guide.